All right, social types. The newest, the most exciting, the most controversial part of executive personality. What do I think about it? I'm glad you asked, because I have a lot to say about it. I'm going to have a real hot take that will completely change what you think about it, because everything you think is wrong. Thankfully, you have me, and I do have all the answers. Thank you very much. Oh God, I do though. When OPS first came out with social types, I, for one, was really excited. I was like, oh man, they're bringing back the caste system. I've really missed that. No, I'm just kidding. Because obviously it's not that. Although you wouldn't be the first to mistake it for that. Because that's how a lot of people talk about it. Oh, the fours just sit back and they hang out with their friends and they just wait to win the lottery or whatever. And if you're entrepreneurial, you start a business, you must be a 2. And if you work really hard and all that sort of stuff, you're a 1. And the 3s do some shit too. When I first heard that, I was like, okay. Well, you know, I guess there's already a concept out there in the world about like a type A personality or a super go-getter. Okay, maybe it's that. I could see that. Let's wait for the people to get typed. We gotta wait for the sensory. I got the pattern. Let's wait for the sensory. That's called double observing. Because otherwise, what do you know what like thinking is or feeling is or sensory or any of these things are until you actually meet someone who is that thing, and then you see, okay, how do they live their life? How are they annoying? What are the positives? What are the downsides? And then the types come in, and it's like, wait, they typed you a type 1, but you're just a bag of garbage with legs. And then there's a bunch of people who got typed a 4, but they swear they're entrepreneurial and they swear they don't want to hang out with friends all day and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, and you can look at their life, it's like, yeah, I could see how you don't really hang out with friends. I could see how you might have you care about business and you care about productivity and you care about all that sort of stuff. Like, okay, okay, pattern, I can kind of see it, kind of not see it. Something's going on there. And then the 2s come out, they're meant to be very friendly, largely ends up being quite a group of assholes. No offense. 3s make a lot of sense because they are just super quiet. There's a whole bunch of very quiet types in OP that were not previously explained. And they tend to be 3s. So let me kind of back up first. This was very much needed in OP because there were so many 512 types that were night and day different. This has been an issue from day one. Because this was a big open loop. You would have IPs that are super introverted, but they weren't very DI or assholes or all that sort of stuff. And you would have EJs or extroverted types that were not really killing themselves for the tribe. What was going on there? So this is super necessary. I think one of the moments I personally regret a lot, this is before I knew the social types, was I was with Mr. Rogers during his last days, and he was looking back on his life and he was asking, I really tried to do the best I could for people, for children. And he kind of recounts his life and he asked me, do you think I made a difference? And look, I didn't know social types at the time. I was like, Mr. Rogers, look at you doing your saviors. You selfish piece of shit. Always me, 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 me. Did I do good? Did I do that? We're sick of hearing your story, you selfish IP. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I am selfish. And then he died. And I could never tell him that actually, I think that you did do a lot for the tribe. I didn't realize he was a 4. But what are you going to do? Oh, then literally a couple of weeks after that, I was on a yacht with Dan Bilzerian and Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belford. And they were like, oh man, we're thinking of unrolling a big investment scam this next week, but we're kind of feeling a little bit guilty. Is this the right thing to do? And again, I was like, I didn't know social types. So I was like, look, guys, previously, before OP, I would have looked at you and be like, oh, you're a bunch of narcissists, you're selfish, you're egomaniacs. But now that I know OP, I'm doing the math. You guys are extroverted EJs. You're killing yourself for the tribe. And so I think, okay, a pyramid scheme and defrauding investors sounds like not that good of a thing, but isn't it time for you to get something that you want? Go ahead, do something for yourself. But I was wrong. Again, I was wrong because I didn't understand the types. So that's why we need social types. And yet, there's something off. There's something off. And I think I got it. All right, the social types bring out 2 new dichotomies, 4 new coins, ego versus friends, and responsibility versus specialize. There's this whole thing about responsibility is oh, do you take on more responsibility? Are you the person? Blah, 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 blah. I can kind of see how that is, but I really don't think that's the core of what that coin means. And also just taking a step back of what I think generally the OPS team's really good at, really world-class, amazing at, they're really good at typing people. I think people have it a little bit upside down. They're like, oh, there's mistypes, and there's a whole thing that happened with mistypes or whatever. Oh, I don't know if people are typed correctly, and this and that. Actually, typing people, in the sense that this whole group of people that they've typed a certain way, being similar, they are really good at that. If you think you're mistyped, like you're probably not mistyped, unless you really kind of gave them like barely any information or like something along those lines. I think they're pretty damn good at that. When it comes to definitions, explanations, anecdotes, they're pretty good, I guess. Yeah, they're all right, but maybe we can help out a little bit. I want to bring out my notes because this is actually going to be information rather than me just spouting out whatever garbage I want to say. What do the ones and twos have in common? Responsibility, okay? So this is kind of, this set of traits is gonna point to responsibility. And this is what I want you to do. Open up the Airtable, which has, thank you, Jana, and whoever else is involved in that. That is a catalog of all the types. Also look at Rob's subjective personality database. That's also really good. The thing you will find with people who have responsibility is that they have some kind of like need to be listened to. Because they all have some opinion about what you should do. The ones have like, you should be like me, and the twos are like, you should listen to me. Like put all that side of like business and entrepreneurial and all that sort of stuff aside, because you're gonna find a lot of business owners as number fours. You're gonna find presidents of the United States as number fours, not just one, many of them. And so if you're gonna be like, well, I think I could be a two because I do have a business. Are you the president of the United States? Because then you could still be number four while being the president. That is clearly garbage. Calm down. This is a better NI, okay? Listen to me. So they're all moralistic. You should do something. Two, they all have a sob story or origin story of like, you know what happened to me? Oh, I started off on the bottom and I ended up at the top. This gives them the authority to tell you what to do. And the twos, you'll see this all the time because they're just a lot more in the public sphere. Alex Hormozy, everybody knows the story about him and his dad. Owen Cook, I don't know how many freaking goddamn times I'm going to hear the story about like I bought a Rolex and then I bought a house and nobody liked me and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine, great, thank you. Another good point of comparison is compare Warren Buffett with Alex Hormozy. I love Alex, and I'm sure he did go through a lot. He slept on the floor of his gym thing and yada, 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 whatever. So we think of like, oh, the fours, they don't have the grit to be able to do that. Maybe, I think you have to prove that. But I think what you can prove is of the same circumstances, the two, the person who has responsibility is going to use that to concoct the fact that they are now have an authority to tell you a story. Because Warren Buffett versus Alex Hormozy, you don't think Warren Buffett had some kind of like, he grew up in the freaking depression. Never hear the person talk about it. Because he's not there to tell you what to do. Again, reminder, Warren Buffett, Alex Hormozy, very similar type, just the difference between intuition and sensory. Whereas Alex Hormozy, everything, he might be like, look, you can do whatever you want. But he has an opinion about what you should do. You listen to Warren Buffett talk, he has no opinion about what you should do. He's like, yeah, this is what I did. You can do whatever you want. Somehow the opposite of responsibility is like not being judgmental about what someone else has to do. And so you kind of focus on like, okay, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I'll just do me. I'll do me. And that's kind of like more what Specialize is, because a lot of people who are specialized are like, I just don't stick to one area. But it's just like, let's say if you don't have an opinion about what someone else should do, and you're not constantly trying to create a story of like to give yourself authority to be able to tell other people what to do, what are you going to do? You're just going to do whatever you find interesting. And if you find something interesting, you'll probably dive into it deep, and maybe you'll get to the bottom of one thing, then you move on to the next thing, because you're not using whatever it is that you're doing unconsciously to give you the authority to be able to tell other people what to do. And so this responsibility kind of ties back to some kind of like this kind of like chip on the shoulder. This is why negative feedback really drives the ones and the twos, those that have responsibility, because they believe that they are meant for more. They believe they went through more. They believe that they pulled themselves up with from their bootstraps. And again, it's kind of like with OP, it's like, rather than thinking that a thinker is smart or whatever, sure, maybe they are. Or number two is more responsibility. It's more the person's perspective. They will see this. You can have two people live the exact same life. The two is going to be like, I pulled myself up on the bootstraps. You don't even know what I went through. And the four is going to be like, yeah, my friends really helped me out and I got really lucky. And I really think that that's how you have to look at it. Once you think of it in terms of deterministic of like, oh, these people do that and these people can't do that. Sure, maybe thinkers are smarter. Maybe people with responsibility, they're more likely to start a business. Sure. I'm sure there's something to that. But also the other half, maybe that's half true. The other half is going to be that they selectively want that to be true. And so when you have things taught by someone who has responsibility versus specialize, the responsibility people can't help make the thing that they're teaching about so much more. For example, objective personality. Look, I have nothing but love for the founders, but there's just a pattern of how they teach the class versus if you imagine Andrew Huberman discovered objective personality, how would he teach the class? He probably wouldn't be like, oh, hero's journey and you got to do this. Yeah, that is raw responsibility talk. Look, Andrew Huberman's whole podcast is about mental well-being, physical well-being, all that sort of stuff. He could easily turn that into his life's message, but he's just kind of look, I'm just going to give you the information. It's like infodom, sleep last, and specialize. It's not moralistic. It's pure information. Good thing about the rah-rah talk is that it's motivational, meant to pull you out of a hole. You don't even understand. I skinned my knee once when I was 10, and I'm here now. Look at me. I'm walking. I'm a dancing. It's that's great. But sometimes, you know what? When you're taking a beginner Spanish, you don't really want it to be taught by a 1 or a 2 because it's bro, I came here to learn Spanish. I don't need... This is a beginner Spanish, yo. If you're gonna learn Spanish, I need you to eat Spanish. I need you to drink Spanish. Most of you are not gonna make it. When are we gonna learn actually Spanish? You're gonna start teaching Spanish at some point? And so you'll see this common theme about everybody who has responsibility. It's Alex Hormozy is not gonna just teach business. He's gonna talk about how business is the key to life and all that sort of stuff. Goggins is not just going to be hey, running is good for you, or hey, running has a lot of benefits, a lot of mental benefits. No, he's going to be running is a religion, and you got to push yourself. Or Jocko, same thing. The downside is okay, maybe I already have a motivation and spiritual life somewhere else. I don't need that from my Spanish class, from my freaking restaurant, from my personality system. That is my part-time hobby. That could easily be the case. And that's maybe where the more the specialized people are coming from. Even if you personally would like the rah-rah talk. I like the rah-rah talk too, man. More, give me more rah-rah talk. Yeah. All right, last coins, I don't really have that much to say about it. Ego is kind of you come to me, right? I'm going to do some stuff and you come to me. Friends is I'm going to come to you. I'm going to take some interest in you. Oh, what are you doing? What are you about? Okay, oh, that's interesting. And so to do a recap of all of them, right? So 1 is you come to me and you listen to me. Because they want to be a model and inspiration. The 2 is you listen to me, but I will come to you. And so that's a life coach, that's a drill sergeant. It's 3 is I'm not going to tell you what to do, let me do me. And you come to me. Let me do me, hopefully I do something good, and you come to me. And then 4 is I'll come to you, I'll see what you're doing. Okay, what are you doing? Oh, that's interesting, what are you doing? Okay, that's interesting, all right. Maybe I'll do that. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. They're kind of EP-like in that way. Anytime I come across someone, I don't care if they have 1 million businesses. I don't care if they have a company and they did it when they were 10. If that person's not telling me that I need to be living life in the way that they are and somehow, you're not going to be a 2. You're not going to be a 1. That is the core deciding factor. Where's your sob story? Where's your origin story? Another classic good combo is, that scene, I haven't seen it actually, of Bane versus Batman. Everybody's familiar with the scene of life sob stories. Oh, your parents died? Well, you don't know how tough I had it. You think that you have darkness? Well, I was born in the darkness. Nobody wants to hear that shit. Just freaking kill him. I don't even need to know how many business did Bane start. I know he's probably a 1 or a 2. I'm having to hear his goddamn stupid life story again. What does Batman do? Batman lost both of his parents. At a young ass age, he's okay, I'm just gonna go and become Batman, and that's my job that I'm not gonna go and before I punch every bad guy and be hey, so my parents died, and then I had to go to a training camp, and I worked really hard, and he's just gonna punch the motherfucker in the face, as you should, instead of having to tell everybody your goddamn story. Dude, there's someone in the community, I'm sorry, I'm whatever thing, but just I found out recently, there are 3 or 4, and they lost their parents at a young age. You never get to hear about it. If that person was a 1 or a 2, you're my mama didn't love me. My daddy left me. And I said, I'm still gonna make it. I had it in me to make it. It's literally everybody else is actually, your parents just got divorced. Your mom still loves you. Your dad lives down the street. He didn't leave you. But tell yourself whatever you need to motivate you and start a business or whatever crap you wanted to do anyway. Anyway, that is what I think about the social types. We need to line it back up to all the other coins, because the way that people talk about social types is that it is pure ability. like everything in OP, it is half ability, right? Sure, the thinkers maybe are more thinky. And the other half is the perception, that their own personal perception that they are more rational. The fact that you think you're rational makes you irrational. Same thing with ones or twos. The fact that you think you pulled yourself up from your bootstrap, that is also, it's half ability and half delusion. The fours, they might believe the same thing. They might believe that they really tried, but they don't feel allowed to say that, oh, it was all me. They have to defer it to, oh, there's just good luck, it's graciousness, and it's my friends, and all that sort of stuff. Not because they necessarily believe it, it's just what they feel permission to say. In the same way, right now, like you might be watching this like, oh man, I agree with what he says. I wouldn't have said that. I'm a thinker. I'm allowed to disagree. I'm intuition. I'm allowed to share my intuition. Says who? Says me. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't share. I wouldn't disagree on. So anyway, that's all I gotta say. I'll catch you guys next time. This is a beginner Spanish, yo. If you're gonna learn Spanish, I need you to eat Spanish. I need you to drink Spanish. Most of you are not gonna make it. Most people will take this class for a whole semester and not learn any Spanish. It is the mentality of learning Spanish. Beginner Spanish ain't no joke. You gotta tell me, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna eat Spanish? I'm gonna eat quesadillas. Yeah, that's right. You gotta be eating quesadillas, man. You gotta be eating quesadillas if you're gonna make it. What about you? I'm gonna eat arepas. Yeah, goddamn, yeah, arepas. Yeah, you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it.